Okay, so we are going to start discussing how to read a story so that the way you read the story later will be engaging for the listeners. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. The first thing that you have to remember is that reading stories is different from telling stories. Maybe some of you have ever joined a storytelling competition, and in the competition, what you had to do was to remember the story, and you may not have the script with you. But reading stories is different in a sense that you may have the text with you, so you may bring the text and you may read the text. You don't have to remember the whole story, but of course, you also have to maintain your eye contact with the audience. And another one is reading stories out loud is a performance. So you have to also maintain your eye contact and to use your gestures effectively, the facial expressions. I'm sure that you already learned from the video that you viewed last week. Manny, who was reading a story entitled Harry the Dirty Dog. Yeah, remember how she used the facial expressions, the mimics to deliver the story. Of course, maybe it is challenging for some of you as you may be shy or you think that you don't have much experience on it. But don't worry, because it's not difficult. However, what you have to do is to have some practice, because practice makes progress. And later, when you keep progressing, then you will be perfect. Next, okay, later on, before you submit your video of your story reading, you of course need to read the story to yourself first. Make sure you really know how the story flows. Okay? Well, you have to read it at least once out loud. Okay? You can lock yourself inside your bedroom so that maybe your parents will not hear you. And this is important. Why? Because you will avoid embarrassing problems. If you don't read a story to your own self first, then you will not have a clear idea of the flows. You may have or you may find difficulties in pronouncing some words. But if you do the rehearsal first, then you can anticipate those problems. Next, right. Now, after you read the story for your own self, then you can start reading stories several times. The first one is for pleasure. Okay, just enjoy it. Enjoy the reading. And then the next one, then you can read it with concentration. So you focus more on the words, on the intonation, on how you should use your voicing, whether it should be loud volume or low volume. Okay. Live with your story until the characters and setting become as real to you as people and places, So live with your story. I am sure that last time when you listened to the story from the nanny, Betty White, her name is Betty White. I am sure that you were drawn into the story. It's like you live there. So this is the thing that you need to do later when you read the story. Visualize it, imagine the sounds, the taste, the sense, the colors. So only when you see the story vividly means clearly, you can make your audience see it. If you cannot imagine how it is, you may have difficulty in trying to make the audience feel the story. Of course, you need to rehearse reading the story, because it will give you a couple of extra advantages. The first thing is that you can work out how to say things. You may avoid embarrassing yourself because you have practiced how to read certain difficult words, how to pronounce certain difficult words. If you're not sure, check the dictionary. You may use online or printed dictionary and check how it should be pronounced. Long convoluted sentences without structure are often hard. So think about how you stress words. Remember our discussion on prominence. Prominence means stressing words that may carry meaning. Like when you say I love you and I love you. They are the same sentences, but the way you stress those two sentences is different. So the emphasis is different. So think about the words that you think are or should be emphasized. You can circle the words, you can highlight the words, or underline it. Learn where in the story a line of dialogue is given, followed by how it's said. Like, for example, if part of the story reads, I don't want to do that, I scream. Here, the way you have to read the sentence is by screaming. Because if you read a story by, let's say, ordinary flat intonation, then it will not deliver or convey the feeling that the story reader wants the audience to feel. I don't want to do that, for example, because you scream. Right, the next thing that you have to remember is to pay attention to how you deliver the story. You need to be sincere. What does it mean? Tulus, it's not Raisa. It's tulus. So, you have to sound sincere. You need to avoid sounding fake. I'm sure later you can practice on this one. And another one is to be enthusiastic. Enthusiastic means that you need to be excited. However, this does not mean artificial, or pura-pura or palsu. It has to be sincere. Alright, next one. This is important. You need to speak loudly enough to be heard. Loud enough. This may be not a problem for you because you're going to record your performance later. You're not going to do it in our big classroom, but still you need to maintain your volume, and slowly enough to be understood. No rush. Take your time. You have enough time, so you don't need to rush. Open your mouth, E, U, A, O. Move your lips, Make sure your enunciation is clear. It's not just pronunciation. It's also articulation of the sounds. Make sure you open your mouth and move your lips, alright? Use your voice to create the atmosphere. Remember, Betty White, when she reads the story, she uses her voice dynamics to create the atmosphere. When it's sad, then she would do it like this to create the atmosphere, something like that. But when it's a happy situation, then she would raise her voice like to create the atmosphere, something like that. So play with your voice dynamics. This is important. Use gestures and facial expressions. because that would help the viewers to visualize the story, so that they will be drawn into the story. They will be immersed into the story. But you need to make sure that they are appropriate and natural. Use natural intonation. I remember I gave feedback to some of you in your first progress test. I asked you to use more natural intonation. Because when it's a dialogue, then you need to really pretend that you're having that real conversation. It's not reading the script. So please use natural intonation. And in particular, don't slip into the monotonous poetry voice unless you want your viewers to sleep. So don't use monotonous intonation. You need to make it lively. Pay attention to the stress patterns. That's another important point. It's not just the stress patterns of the sentences, but also the words and the paragraphs. If you think the words carry prominence, then you need to stress them. Okay? Pay attention to your audience as you read. This means you need to maintain your eye contact. Pause when they laugh. This may not be probably this will not be applicable for you later because you're not going to have it in our classroom. But if you think you need to pause, then pause. And glance around the room. Okay, just pretend that you have audience with you. To avoid losing your place on the page, as you glance around, you may want to place a thumb or finger next to the line so you don't lose it. Don't lose the line. Don't rush through stories. Again, you need to take your time slowly enough for the listeners to follow the story. But of course, you also need to maintain your fluency. Don't pause for very long between sentences. Okay, this is actually the instruction that I asked you to do last week, so you don't have to pay attention to this. So I hope our discussion on story reading can help you to prepare your next project, which is reading a story. I'll give more information on the project later. So good luck, everyone.